We are starting now. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, no, I just came to apologize and ask you to stay put. We'll be joined, I think, in the next 5-10 minutes by the People's Commissars who will be addressing this press conference. We must relax, join the press conference. There's not going to be any distractions. We are in charge. It is our press conference and myself, so anyone who's not invited, they know that we are not supposed to be here. And we are taking a very good care of that one. We have learned from the previous experience. So they will be with us now, I think in the next 5-10 minutes. So I'll keep you posted. So I'm outside, 5-10 minutes, we'll be starting. We apologize. We had to deal with some disruptors before we start and ensure that you are safe, we are safe as well. Please. I warned them that we are going to start in the absence. Pardon?
Yeah.
On the sides. So we are starting without them, eh?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Simele i-printer, they are printing, ne? They are printing. Yeah, but I can't say ke bale. Ho banana. Motho ya nyane. Mara ba stlisa no, se print mo hotel. Commissar, ha ba etse di copy kaofela, ba etsa copy e one.
How are you, CBS? I'm alive, man.
Kim? No, Kim utadila. Kim?
When you go reception.
Come, I want to give you a message. Get the first copy that's printed out. Oh, that's fine. Kim, it's fine. Niprinta kancane njengoba ukuthi sisakwazi ukubona thina.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think we are going to start our board of
Yeah.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think the moment that we have all been waiting for, that was delayed by other people who are enemies of democracy, of us holding the People's Press Conference, this one that we're about to deal with between ourselves and the media. We must apologize. My name is Mphora Makatsi. I think I'm the former national coordinator of the EFF. We are here today to share some news with you. And we apologize for starting late. We had to ensure that indeed there are no disruptions. We know for the fact that what happened in Cape Town last week, as soon as we released the media alert yesterday, the other side was planning to ensure that this press conference does not take place. I think you need to ask yourself questions, why? And we must say that some of you within the media fraternity are also playing a major role or are in cahoots with the other side in ensuring that the democracy in our country is hampered with, that there is no transparency, that people should be suppressed when they want to raise different or a dissenting view with certain people in the country. We are aware that some of you, as soon as they receive our media alert because they are in the payroll of Julius Malema. It's a fact, some of you are in the payroll of the media houses that you're working for and are also in the payroll of Julius Malema. That every time when there's information that you receive about EFF, that you should run to Julius. And we must tell you, South Africa is a democratic country. We are going to have this press conference. We are going to raise our views anytime, anywhere. The EFF does not belong to Julius, and this country is a democratic country. At this press conference, I'm with the People's Commissars, my fellow patriotic South Africans, who will always be on the side of justice. I'm with Commissar Andile Mngxitama, the People's Commissar. I'm with Commissar Commissar Kanyisile, Litchfield Chabalala, the People's Commissar. I'm with Commissar Lakitwala. We are all members of Parliament of Economic Freedom Fighters. And without wasting more of your time, I'm going to hand over to Commissar Kanyisile to take us through our press statement, our press release.
Thank you, Commissar. I think I just want to thank all the media people who are here, but most of all to thank you for your patience, for waiting, and we cannot overstate the fact that we apologize for starting late. I am a soldier by training, so I respect time and I respect your time. It was matters out of our hands. I think you've heard by now that the West scaffolds at the gate, and we took a lot of time coming in here because some people had to be cleared from the gate for us to get in. It was not an easy exercise. That is the nature of the organization that we deal with, or of the people who lead it and make other people commit acts that are contrary to the constitution of this country. Be that as it may, let us give you what you all came here for. I shall read it, and after reading it, we shall provide question and answer session. We are members of the EFF. We are also members of Parliament deployed by the EFF. We today take a public stance to be crusaders for the defense of the 7 cardinal pillars of the EFF, which have ensured that more than 1 million South Africans voted for the EFF. We abhor violence. We hate corruption. We stand opposed to lies and deception. We also stand opposed to poverty being used as a weapon against our people. We are fighters for justice and vow to oppose violence everywhere it shows its ugly head. We shall not be silent in the face of corruption, including in our own party. We cannot with a straight face shout at the president and say pay back the money, when we should be shouting internally too. The formation of EFF has been met with unprecedented support by all sections of South African society. The mission of economic freedom in our lifetime has given hope to the millions who have been betrayed by the ANC for more than 20 years. These hopes of our people for true liberation are contained in the founding manifesto, a document of collective labor for the complete emancipation of our people. The 7 cardinal pillars of the EFF remain the programmatized guide of our movement. We both helped found EFF, and some of us joined EFF for the promises and commitments in the founding manifesto. Now we watch with utter disgust as the leadership of the EFF, under the guidance of both the President, Julius Malema, and his deputy, Floyd Shibambo, engaged in a destruction of this dream and betraying the 7 cardinal pillars of the founding manifesto. We note that there has been a systematic erosion of organizational memory through the sidelining of those who were there at the beginning. An organization without memory and heritage of itself is vulnerable to abuse and is open to being derailed from its original mission, for if you do not know where you come from, you cannot go to where you are supposed to. EFF is in real danger of being derailed from its mission and being turned into a weapon of reaction, hooliganism and a criminal gang, almost tantamount to the rebel groups in the continent. We have chosen to stand up against this eventuality because we don't want to contribute towards building a neo-colonial dictatorship under the guise of building a revolution. We have seen enough of these tragic developments in Africa and during the era of tin pot dictatorships in Latin America. We also watch with shock how Julius Malema regularly ridicules Umkhonto weSizwe. This attack on a people's army and its gallant efforts is also part of the erosion of memory, so that the only memory left associated with liberation is that of Malema himself. The unwarranted attacks on MK are an insult to the thousands who left home and chose battle and offered their lives for the liberation of others. Insulting MK is insulting the memory of Chris Hani. It's insulting the memory of Solomon Mahlangu and many others who laid down their lives for liberation. Like in all battles and struggles, there are traitors and cowards, but those cannot be standards upon which MK is judged. We also wish to honor the many Liberation Army soldiers who died in exile and their bones remain in other countries. Their bones cry for returning home. Our ancestors cannot be happy that those warriors have been abandoned and forgotten. We pledge to work with others to return the bones of the fallen heroes so that they may find peace and we too can find peace in the knowledge that they are finally returned home. We also note that some soldiers of the Azanian Liberation Army, APLA, are still in jail for activities undertaken to liberate our people. We shall also join hands with others to see justice done to them. It's an indictment that apartheid's known killer commanders are released from jail, but soldiers for liberation remain behind bars. It was not a criminal act to fight for liberation. We honor all who stood up when the call for war of liberation was made, including Azania. South Africa is back at the verge of breaking from the weight of corruption and incompetency, which is ironically functional to elite accumulation. Incompetency is good for our leaders, but bad for the people. This state of affairs must end so that our people can realize true freedom. Leaders have too much power, and if they are not kept in check, they run the risk of becoming dictators, a very fine line. We don't trust anyone with power, including ourselves. We need watertight checks and balances to avoid the abuse of power by those who currently don't have it, but want it for themselves, under the guise of being people's liberators. No one must surrender the right to self-govern to a leader. We also come with heavy hearts because the EFF is under direct attack by the culture of the ANC, threatening to create a mini ANC outside of the ANC. We saw scenes of members being assaulted, stripped of the attires of the organization, and leaders of the EFF celebrating violence against its own members. We wish to state our strong disapproval of such shocking scenes in Parliament. That's not how to settle differences. But we also strongly condemn the leadership of the EFF for overstretching attacks at the home of an EFF member and chairperson of his branch, Lufuno Kokoro. We take it as a sign of degenerate counter-revolutionary behavior to intimidate the mother and family of those we disagree with. That's not being revolutionary at all. That's being thuggish and brutish. It's in fact the behavior of most rebel leaders, that if I disagree with you, I annihilate your whole family. The celebration and instigation of violence by leaders of the EFF against members who question wrong decisions within the party is a conclusive sign that Julius Malema and Floyd Shibambo are turning the EFF into a counter-revolutionary force that resembles rebel movements such as UNITA in Angola, the Revolutionary United Front of Sierra Leone, the Lord's Resistance Army of Uganda, and many others, and by the way, all of them masquerade under the term revolutionary. We have seen enough bloodshed of Africans being spilled by selfish, self-serving leaders who claim to be revolutionary. We remain shocked by how EFF leaders have been celebrating and encouraging violence and humiliation through public stripping of members of the party and manhandling. Such acts are not an act of revolutionary people, but of counter-revolutionary ones meant to intimidate the whole population into submission, fear, and silence. We choose today to fight against turning the EFF into a force of brutality against its own members. We condemn the violence against Commissar and Member of Parliament Andile Mngxitama. We today can reveal that top leadership of the EFF are involved in assassination attempts against the life of Commissar Mngxitama. We know that at the disrupted press conference in Cape Town, gang members who are not even members of the EFF, who were not even in EFF regalia, who looked confused and lost in that press conference, were hired to stab Commissar Mngxitama as soon as known EFF members of that area had pushed him into a corner. We furthermore note that provincial chairperson of the Western Cape, Bernard Joseph, is on record to the media at that conference that the attack was ordered and they were informed to stop that press conference at all costs. We note with shock that both Julius Malema and Floyd have congratulated the assailants of Commissar Mngxitama in the same way they have congratulated and celebrated the attack and ridiculing of Lufuno Gogoro's mom's attack. A movement must protect the people and terrorize the vulnerable. A movement must not terrorize the vulnerable. It must protect everybody. EFF must be rescued from the culture of hooliganism now taking root. The problem with roots is that when they set in, you have to cut out the whole thing. Who is safe against them? To those who celebrate the attack on others with the leadership, they are not aware that today it's us, tomorrow it could be them, because there is no way they are going to agree with Malema all the way. We also wish for the nation to know that a hitman has been sought in foreign lands to assassinate Commissar Mngxitama. We call this conference to primarily declare our new campaign of anti-corruption within the EFF. We do this to save the soul of the EFF, and that's why we call this campaign Save the Soul of the EFF. Why this campaign, many would ask. We call this campaign because of the things we have seen, the evidence before us. We launched this campaign today because our leaders are at the center of eroding the identity of the EFF. We love this organization. We have no home other than the EFF. But we can't allow our movement soul to be soiled by the waste of cultures imported from the ruling party and elsewhere. So we decided to do something about it. We decided to go to members of the party to explain, share and advise, guide and lead. But we know the risk. We don't mind because we care. What have we seen? I guess that's the part everybody's waiting for. We have seen evidence of financial mismanagement of great proportions. We have seen massive cover-ups by deceit, lies, intimidation, and assault on the truth with a force and skill rarely seen. We have seen how people like Rianzo Baloyi have been turned into manufacturers of lies to protect leaders. But Baloyi is not a criminal, just a victim. He is being used and destroyed. As an accountant, his career is ruined. As a revolutionary, his credibility is destroyed. He is being reduced to an askari of lies. We have seen the development of a bad culture, a culture of silence, a culture of defending leaders by all means necessary. We are the crusaders of anti-corruption inside the EFF. We know all parties allow the abuse of power by leaders in South Africa. We stand opposed to that sentiment and endeavor to set a clean and a new example. We ask the DA, where are your crusaders against the abuse of power inside your own party? We similarly ask the ANC. We are your men and women who stand on the side of the truth. Some call us rebels, lizards, cockroaches and worse. Mind you, that's the language all rebel leaders use to annihilate those who stand for the truth. For when we have reduced people into these terms, it is easy to just squash them and kill them, for indeed they become subhuman to you. We won't be deterred because we love the EFF. We hope one day all political parties, be they left or right, all civil society, all organizations of faith, and all grassroots organizations, when questioning, shall be celebrated and not seen as destructive and divisive. We hope this will be a culture that really epitomizes our democracy. We set ourselves an impossible but necessary task today. Unlike Hope and others before us, we raise these issues to strengthen instead of weaken. We want our members to be able to say in EFF, our leaders and members don't defend what's wrong. They stand up against all odds. We want to be proud of our movement as the example of internal democracy and an epitome of anti-corruption. We have no doubt that many South Africans shall join us in this battle for an ethically driven way of doing politics. We wish for politics of honesty, truth, compassion, most of all, and understanding. We have seen the destruction wrought by the politics of lies and deception and squashing people who do not necessarily agree with you. 20 years of such politics is enough to scare us and make us shiver, for they have been synonymous with African democracies throughout the continent. The fight against corruption is not just one of financial mismanagement, but the corruption of the objectives of the revolution. The relationship between the two is indivisible. A leader who steals from the poor to feed his lifestyle can't be a revolutionary. A leader who takes money from imperialism and white monopoly capital to maintain his lifestyle is not a revolutionary leader. Such a leader is compromised. Such a leader is a servant of the paymaster and uses the struggle to enrich himself. A leader who lives beyond his means is a compromised leader. So our crusade is not just against the theft of our organizational money, but the corruption of the vision of the EFF, which is linked to financial mismanagement and conspicuous consumption. We have seen lots of information that points to wrongdoing in the EFF. We have been given this information by many sources and we have sought to verify it as far as possible. We have not shared this information with anyone or hostile forces. We thank those who have done so. The information we have has opened our eyes and helped us understand why certain things are happening the way they are happening within our organization, and why some MPs are being hounded out of the party. Why some leaders were campaigned against and excluded from slates that were promoted as officials at the National People's Assembly. Such leaders and MPs are a hindrance to financial mismanagement and the politics of corruption. Corruption-related finances. We now know that indeed the purchase of the golf, which has been reported as purchased by EFF funds and registered in a private business, is a corruptive practice. We know the company called Voorsprong is owned by a 22-year-old student who are linked to the president of the EFF. We know that the registered address of the company is the home address of Julius Malema. We also know that contrary to denials, Voorsprong pays Julius Malema. It is paying him for having given them a GTI Golf bought by EFF money. We also know that it is not true that political parties cannot register motor vehicles in their names. We called the registration center and were assured of this. The media accepted the dodgy explanation provided by EFF leaders as an article of faith. Now we are told the car is registered or being registered in the name of the EFF. Why after the fact? What has changed since 5 months ago? Why couldn't it be registered in the name of the EFF when it was bought? Is it because the illegal registration of the property of the EFF in a private company was discovered and unmasked? It is a fact that the instruction to register the car in a private company that shares an address with the president of the EFF was given by the same president, overriding the instruction of the treasurer at the time, Leon Matthews. It's on record by the financial administrator of the EFF, Mr. Baloyi, in his own words. Malema must be asked why he did this. We are told that the GTI is used for security and VIPs. Who are VIPs? And what do they do in the EFF? It purports itself to be a people's movement fighting for the poor. We saw VIPs landing in multiple helicopters at the wedding of Julius Malema. Or perhaps those are the VIPs. Were those EFF VIPs? Is a wedding not a private affair? So the GTI that belonged to the EFF was being used to benefit the president of the party in his private capacity. Is this not abuse of organizational property for personal benefit? Is this not exactly what Zuma did with state funds in building Ingandla? Why then does Malema shout at him to pay back the money? We don't approve of Zuma using state resources, nor do we approve of Malema using EFF resources as his private property. Why is it wrong for Zuma to abuse state resources but acceptable for Julius Malema to do so? Constituency funding. We know that contrary to expected accounting practices in the uses of constituency funding, no EFF MP except for Julius Malema and Floyd know any details of how their constituency funding is being spent. This has opened the party funding to abuse and possible failure to meet the Auditor General's requirements and possibly criminally implicating all EFF MPs in wrongdoing. This is because all matters of funding, procurement and allocations are centralized in the hands of both the President and the Deputy President. They have even taken the powers of accounting officers at the provincial legislature level. All EFF funding is controlled by two people who happen to be friends, by the way, and do so under great secrecy and intimidation. One has to wonder, when they misappropriate these funds, are they doing it as President and Deputy or just as old-time buddies? The lines, I think, are blurred. Julius Malema and Floyd don't contribute to EFF party, but take away from it. We can also reveal today that while all MPs contribute 10% of their salaries to the EFF, both the President and the Deputy President of the EFF don't do so. This shows a pattern of entitlement to party resources. It is also known that all other MPs do party work from their pockets, but not these two. They get all their expenses covered by the party. The disturbing question we need to ask ourselves is, since the EFF is a government in waiting, what would stop Julius Malema from abusing state funds the day when we do become government? What would be the explanation for his lack of loyalty to the EFF? Failure to agree to contributions of the party, or is it a case of members contributing and leaders being above the law? Abuse of EFF credit cards. Looking at the credit card expenditure of EFF used by the party president, one conclusion comes to mind. He is feeding the EFF through feeding himself. He is eating on behalf of the EFF. The gluttony is astounding. Groceries for personal use at 10,000 rands, that must be a really big family. Use of the credit card to buy expensive alcohol in exclusive nightclubs and in particular Cubana. In the absence of transparency on how money is used, how should we, EFF members and MPs sitting here feel? But more so, how should South Africans feel and trust this man who masquerades as a revolutionary? How much is allocated to the president and by whom? What are the minutes of the War Council authorizing such expenditure? Lifestyle audit. We know our leaders, in particular the president and deputy president, live beyond their means. As MPs, they do not earn money that matches their lifestyles. It begs a question, it begs an answer. Where does the money to throw a wedding party of about 4 million come from? I tend to get involved in how the president lives his life. But his lifestyle has a direct bearing on the party, its morality and ideology, which is inspired, among others, by Thomas Sankara. It is instructive to compare the wedding parties of the two. Floyd Shivambu now drives a top-of-the-range Porsche. His MP salary makes such a purchase impossible. Where does he get such money from? The EFF coffers or private donors? We do not wish to even ask what a socialist leader is doing with a Porsche. We all know that Floyd Shivambu is a regular consumer at Louis Vuitton. We don't begrudge him his tastes, but we must ask how it is morally permissible to buy a few items of clothing in excess of 200,000 when there's a lot of unemployed EFF members, but and hide behind the curtains. These expensive lifestyles are sustained while the party pleads poverty at all times. Everything and anything that is done in the EFF, the culture of poverty and the organization has no money is always pleaded. And MPs and anybody who works must dig into their pockets and fund such activities. There is no money for programs of the party at the base, including bailing out fighters when they get arrested. But the leadership live like members of drug cartels. This is contrary to the expected revolutionary morality. It is actually very, very synonymous with how rebel movement leaders act and live and behave. In this regard, all EFF leaders, more so the top two, must subject themselves to a revolutionary lifestyle audit as mechanisms to rehabilitate themselves from the debilitating life of being whilst trying to make a socialist revolution. We simply can't have Louis Vuitton revolutionaries. Leaders must lead by example. Aren't we all tired of do as I say? Isn't it time we all just followed leaders who said do as I do? Thomas Sankara showed the way, and today the president of Uruguay is leading a new revolution of what is to be a people's president. Love for money and conspicuous consumption are not part of any characteristic that define any revolutionary in any phase of the world. Political corruption or wrong corrupting the ideals of the EFF. As indicated, EFF suffered from both the corruption related to finances and also corruption of its ideals. The culmination of the corruption of the ideals of the EFF as a result of financial corruption was clearly expressed in the closing remarks of the National People's Assembly by the president of the party himself. In a new and shocking turn, the EFF no longer speaks about white monopoly capital, but rather focuses its energies on marginal programs that avoid harming white interests. Is it because white monopoly has given EFF money? Both the program for the mining sector and land were redirected at black-owned and controlled areas. Take a look at these few examples. On land occupations, the president introduced the new concept of unoccupied land. Which land is that? All South African land is stolen property and therefore available for occupation. The qualification unoccupied only serves to direct our people to municipality land to occupy for the purposes of erecting shacks. This is not a bad thing in itself, but cannot be a central focus of land occupation. Land occupation is the main campaign to change land ownership patterns in the country, not to create more townships and squatter camps. What happened to occupying land on farms? Is it because it is white-owned land? Why is the call not focused on encouraging the restitution claims who have been waiting for some 20 years for their land? Is it to avoid harming white interests? On mining, the president was very clear whose mines were to be targeted for occupation and blockading. These were the mines of black people. We do not condone the exploitative practices of black mine owners, but we do find it rather ironic and sarcastic that our struggle around mines should focus on black-owned mines and not white-owned mines who have benefited the most and for the longest and from stealing our wealth. Is this shift as a result of money exchanging hands? Are black mining bosses refusing to make donations perhaps? EFF is primarily here to change colonial and racist power relations. That means the focus should remain on white monopoly capital, and this focus cannot be easily altered depending on who is funding the lifestyles of our party leaders. The corruption of the ideals of the EFF is no longer speculation but a reality. This corruption is based on saying one thing and then doing the other, talking left and walking right, breaking the Woolworths boycott campaign. This practice of talking left and walking right is seen in how the president of the party has been seen on a regular basis purchasing at Woolworths, using the EFF credit card finally. The EFF has taken a stand against Israeli oppression of the Palestinian people and endorsed the boycott of Woolworths. The party has come out in public to support the boycott, but the president buys at Woolies. Is this a case of do as I say and not as I act? The corruption of ideals rests in the politics of hypocrisy, saying one thing and doing the other. This culture has infested the EFF and must be uprooted. Deals with ANC to expel MPs. The corruption of the ideals of EFF was again demonstrated in an attempt to enter into a secret deal with ANC to expel 7 EFF MPs. And all the time he's on record denying this. The worst element of this deal is that it sought to use the payback money campaign as a bargaining chip. The EFF leaders offered peace, for the State of the Nation address in exchange for ANC conceding to their demand for the expulsion of 7 MPs. The leadership of the EFF has no mandate to enter into any deals except be mandated by its own membership. This is morally unacceptable and politically bankrupt. What further deals like this can we expect or are being hatched behind curtains? Furthermore, on returning to the ANC, we can reveal that a faction of the ANC is working closely with the top leadership of the EFF to ensure that EFF is incorporated back into the ANC. However, before that happens, all the leaders who are likely to oppose such a move are being expelled and purged. We know that Julius Malema was at Maputo at the same time as President Zuma earlier this year. The plan was to have a meeting with him to offer the EFF to the ANC. Malema has repeatedly denied that he was in Maputo. But the evidence of the same cards that he uses, I love credit cards because they leave a trail record. We can now reveal who in the ANC has been working to both destabilize the EFF and try to negotiate a return to the ANC. What explains these desperate attempts to return to the ANC is the financial corruption indicated above. The criminal case of Limpopo shall be heard this year and can go either way. To preempt possible jail time, our leaders are offering the EFF to the ANC for protection against prosecution. We do not have proof, but there are further rumors that new charges may be on the way. Charges similar to those the president is out on bail for. These new would be charges about wrongdoing during the bail period. This then explains the desperation to find peace with the ANC. It has to be remembered at the time that the anti-Zuma faction hoped a return to the ANC would strengthen them. The pay back the money campaign is now the primary weapon of the leadership battle inside the ANC. The pay back the money campaign has been corrupted and no longer serves as a mechanism to hold President Zuma accountable. It's a weapon for factional battles and the settling of political scores and deal-making. A constant refrain that points to this culture of political corruption is based on reducing the EFF into the property of the president and the deputy president has been observed since the elections, alluding to this. Before the elections, the talk was that no one owns the EFF. After the elections, or shortly before actually, and well after the elections, it turned into, you all know, I and Julius formed the EFF, that's quoting Floyd Chibango verbatim. What is shocking is that the declaration of ownership has been made very publicly and boldly. Floyd made the reactionary claim at the collapsed Cape Metro Regional People's Assembly during a meeting. He also told the EFF MP in Parliament the same. Julius Malema did so on at least 2 occasions in public. First at the Thank You After Party rally held in of the first EFF's rally held in Braamfontein and also at the Gauteng Provincial Assembly. These claims of ownership are not innocent, but rather explain why the two feel entitled to the property of the EFF, but also to its human resources, who should be used and just discarded at will. EFF must be returned to the people. When there was no money, huge and impossible sacrifices were made by thousands of members, some of whom have been sidelined and have been blacklisted and bastardized. Their images have even been turned so ugly that some of the media have even joined into that campaign. The EFF ran an election on the goodwill of our people, the true owners of this great movement, and that is how it should be remembered. The public and persistent support for the convicted murderer of Papiki Buile by the leadership of the EFF, more specifically by Julius, was a turning point for us. Babuile was elected as the party provincial secretary general from his jail cell. We indeed are making history. His election was lobbied for by national leadership, including it being secured by a rigged vote. As a matter of fact, during the time, all EFF was hailed into the Northwest and a campaign of door-to-door was run, but we all know that campaign was there to ensure that there is visible support on the ground for Babuile. The difference in ballots cast for Babuile and the commissar who contested him is a very narrow line. There is no indication that Babwile was the sole leader and that no one else could do the job of leading the province. The EFF leaders did not stop there. They continued to maintain this convicted murderer as party chief leader. A pledge was also made that EFF should pay all the money the provincial legislature shall have paid him in salaries until he exhausted the appeal process. The truth is, Babwile doesn't have leave to appeal. But even if he had, he should not have been elected into a party leadership position under such a dark cloud. Isn't it in properly run organizations, anywhere, political or non-political? If a person says I've appealed, you say good, let's wait for your appeal outcome. The continued support given to a convicted man and convicted of murder has cast the EFF in a very bad light and has shown the moral and revolutionary bankruptcy of our leaders. In fact, EFF leaders on the ground in the Northwest are on record saying, whenever we try to speak to people and recruit, they always talk to us about a jailed murderer who is on our payroll and is our leader. Fighters in Northwest are confronted with a terrible question each time they endeavor to do their work. The people ask, do you want us to join a party run by convicted murderers? The leadership of the EFF is busy reducing our party into something like a Mexican drug cartel that runs things from prison. This is the corruption of the ideals of the EFF and a direct contravention of our radical pillar number 7. All the problems we have with the party today significantly emanates from this matter. We spoke out publicly after the party ignored our pleas and letter. There is no reference for supporting a convicted murderer, pledging to pay his salary, and electing them into positions of leadership. We stood on a principle and we are being punished for it. What is our way forward? Having observed all this and having committed ourselves to fight to clean the EFF of bad tendencies, of mafia tendencies, of rebel movement tendencies, of dealing with issues through negotiation and not through violence, a culture of not hiring hitmen but talking to anyone you perceive as your opponent, a culture of persuasion and questioning, we have resolved the following. To go back to the people and share with them our ideas, fears and suggestions on how to improve and grow our party, because we believe without the people we are nothing. That we shall never leave the EFF but rather contribute to its growth as a revolutionary party, which is democratic, caring and responsive to members and society at large. A party that is a home to all people, no matter what the differences of ideology are. A party that negotiates rather than resorts to conflict. To support the brave High Court application for an external audit by Commissar at the Western Cape High Court. The application shall be lodged this week and we shall support it. This is because such an external audit shall help clear the dark cloud hanging over the finances of the party. We call upon all fighters to support this court application. We call upon all leaders of the EFF, more so the president, to take leadership and not oppose the application, because he is on record saying the finances of the party are clean and are on track. So we suppose he will be the first one to support it, because it will help him clear what we are saying, if what he says is indeed true. We also shall support an application for the nullification of the National People's Assembly. The Assembly was compromised in a fundamental way. This must be corrected. The application for this is to be lodged on Friday at the High Court in Mangaung. We shall also support the call for the recreation. We shall also support the call for the creation of a staff forum within EFF to defend the rights of employees. We shall also support an application for the nullification of the People's Assembly. The Assembly was compromised in a fundamental way. This must be corrected. The application for this is to be lodged on Friday in the High Court in Mangaung. We shall also support the call for the creation of a staff forum within the EFF to defend the rights of employees. Coordinators have already been identified. The abuse of the rights of employees internally is not in sync with our constitution, with our 7 cardinal pillars, and with the revolutionary movement that we say we are. We also call for a lifestyle audit of our party leaders. We commit ourselves to honor the launch rally of the Save the Soul of the EFF to be held in Mangaung this Saturday, which shall be addressed by, among others, Commissar Andile Mngxitama. At the rally, further national programs shall be announced. This statement is jointly issued by Mpora Makata, Khanyisile Litchfield, Shabalala, Andile Mngxitama, and Lucky Twala, all MPs sitting in front of you. I thank you.
Thank you, Commissar Khanyisile. I think we are going to take a first round of questions and commissars and then respond to those questions. I'm going to take first 5. That hand was first, second, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll take 6. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I just have 4 questions.
4 questions. Yeah, you can ask that.
Okay. So my first question is, so are we going to get any evidence of the corruption? Are we going to get any tangible? Will we get documents when we leave here this afternoon? Secondly, Andile Mngxitama, you guys were not elected to the party leadership after the assembly. Are you not just disillusioned and that's why you're speaking out? And had you been elected a leader of the party, would you still be saying the same things? Thirdly, Mr. Mngxitama, who is the man in the car driving in that who waved a gun? Is he a member of the police? Or why was he holding a gun and obviously pointing it at journalists? That's a bit worrying for us. And fourthly, what is your relationship, besides the 4 of you that are sitting here, do you believe that you have the support of the people on the ground?
The second question is there.
I've only got 3. I'm a columnist for Independent Leader. Andile, a couple of questions.
You said you have 3, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
I had 4, but you
Okay, now it's
The first question is, have you laid charges as a result of the assassination attempt? And if you have, or even if you haven't, what evidence is there so that we can elevate the allegation to fact? That's the first question. The second question is, I didn't hear precisely, but I think I heard that Malema and President Zuma were not put around at the same time. Millions of people were in the same country at the same time all over the world. Do we have concrete documented evidence, perhaps of entry of them into the hotel, something at that level, again to elevate it from allegation to fact? And then a third question, what in your personal reflection, Andile, are the roots of this? There are immediate issues, obviously finance, etc., etc. These things will corroborate and will air them. But I'd also like to hear you just think aloud for me. Do you think there are ideological roots? Are there design faults going back to the conception of EFF? Or is it all just about the mechanics?
Thank you.
You said you just asked just 2 questions. My colleagues
2 questions.
asked questions. Are you going to give us evidence of all that you said? Otherwise, all of this is something really quite fantastic. And you saying there are resolutions that you've taken, but as far as I understand, 2 of you have been suspended. Are you going to be able to do this and there? Are you going to pursue these resolutions you take?
Okay. You're done. Yeah.
You want Julius management to be kicked out?
Say it again.
You want Julius management to be involved as party president?
That was your question.
You want Julius management?
Yeah. The movement of the party leader or the party leader, yes.
Something else from the NPA. My question is directed to the regular that we before on the weekend, a direct response to Julius Malema's call for you guys to pull the statement.
I didn't hear that at all, eh?
Is the EFF degenerating to a cocaine?
He says that Ali is going to
Is it proof?
Just hold on. The last.
Okay. Name is Polly from ENC. The question is, as a result of Ms. Lipsky Chawla saying that she can now review who in the ANC is working with the EFF unit. Please can you tell us the name of this individual? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to give chance to the commissars to respond to your questions. Let me start with Commissar Andile.
Thanks again. There are a number of questions related to proof to the claims that we are making. We do have the documentary proof of all the claims that we make. Now, the question is whether we debated this a lot amongst ourselves, whether we should make this available to the media. And we've also checked with the lawyers who are assisting with the application which is going before the Western Cape High Court. And that application specifically is got to do with auditing the finances of the party. In other words, the plea is that the party should allow an external audit of the finances of the party. Now, a lot of the evidence that we have relates to precisely that matter. And we have been asked not to make that available. I'm very reluctant to go with that we shouldn't make this available because they are. But should we give the media the credit card records of where Julius bought what? We have that. But we've been advised that it's best if we submit, because we are supporting that application, we submit those documents to that court process, which is tomorrow. Yeah, and I'm sure at that point you will see, when you look at the application itself, you'll see these documents. But also, I think it is good to ask Julius back whether indeed all these allegations that we make are false, because I think you'll find great difficulty to do so. There's a question of whether we are raising these issues because we're not elected in the National People's Assembly. The important distinction you need to make is as follows: that some of us did not accept nomination, so we did not stand. So there's no question of us standing and not being elected and failing to emerge. We felt very strong already at the NPA that the processes followed were hugely compromised to arrive at determining leadership of the party. It was, I know Stone was there, that man, I know he was there. And he knows what happened at our conference. It was a shocking thing. The president of the party comes there on the following day dressed in a very light shirt, long sleeves, and sits right in front of the conference and raises his hand for the candidates that he wants. And the whole conference looks at what the president is doing and they raise their hands. When the president puts his hand down, everybody puts his hand down. Now you can argue, no, he's just a member like any other member, therefore he's got the right to participate. But I then ask you this question. If you think immediately after President Mandela came out of prison and there was an ANC assembly and Nelson Mandela sits in front of that, do you think members of that party would have gone against Nelson Mandela? That is why we need secret ballots. That's why you need secret ballots. Otherwise, the whole process is compromised. I myself and Commissar Kanyisile were a part of the accepted slate for additional members. So there is no question that we would not have emerged because Julius will raise his hand. He said he was going to raise his hand. But I don't want to be elected like that. So it is not a question of being in, it's a principal question of how do we elect our leaders. Of course, I mean, some of us have been accused of not knowing elective conferences. Of course, we don't know elective conferences because there was no EFF before. Those who know elective conferences of rigging and lying and using money are talking about experiences from the ANC. It was the first conference. Not a single individual should have had an experience of a conference. It is a new party. It claims to be revolutionary. It's doing new different things. It must therefore behave differently from the ANC. So that question I don't think arises. I think if anything we can be accused of being hyper in our attempt to uphold principles. There was a question of a gun. I don't know because I arrived there. That would be. Then there were all those questions related to. Okay, maybe let me try other questions further. Then there was when I laid charges. The Eusebius, your questions about laying charges. I have not laid charges, but I have been approached.
I'll respond to that.
You'll respond to that. There is the. Or you say, but look, people might have just flown to Maputo to have some prawns there. So. Commissar Makata will deal with that. And then you asked me to reflect a little bit at the ideological level. Certainly, if you read our statement and we hear that we argue very strongly that financial mismanagement and conspicuous consumption feeds a particular kind of politics, and that politics is not revolutionary. So when you take money from imperialism, then you will do what we see our parties doing. All of a sudden, the discourse move away from attacking the interests of white capital, right? Similarly, when you engage in corrupt practices, you're going to come into confrontation with the law. You're going to seek protection, and that means that you're going to find peace with the ruling party because somehow it might be able to protect you. When we join EFF, we don't join the ANC. We believe Julius Malema has changed. He has seen his way. And I must tell you, I've worked with him. He is a brilliant leader. He is a brilliant leader in terms of uniting people, in terms of all that. But he is so compromised that the question of whether he's a revolutionary leader now is on the table. And it's up to him to show that he is indeed a revolutionary leader. But from the statement we know, he is celebrating beating up of his own members. He's celebrating ridiculing of his own members. He is celebrating violence against his own members. What does this suggest then in terms of the new politics that we're trying to create? So yes, I think there are deep ideological questions. Are we building the ANC or building something new? You know, we can have a long discussion, Eusebius, about Marxist-Leninism and Fanonian politics, which is a new, completely new project. And as an intellectual, I find it challenging to think through what does it mean in terms of creating a politics of the post-colony, which does not repeat the mistake of Africa. But Julius Malema is taking us back to exactly the thing we're trying to run away from. That is my short response to, and that is why we say in our statement, we can't trust anybody with power. This is the lesson. We have seen what socialists did in Russia. They took all the money and crushed the people. The power and crushed the people. We have seen a lot of experiences that claim to be revolutionary, but they're not checks and balances. Once that happens, the leadership that emerges become the new rulers. And then then that happens, it means that we will give people land, but we will deny them freedom. We want a new politics that will give us land and freedom at the same time. I should not be afraid to disagree with the leader of the party or my president on my farm. I should have my farm. I should be able to also criticize my president. We can't have a situation where people eat, but people have no freedom. So this is the difficulty that of the new politics that we're dealing with. There's an issue of suspension that, or he'll deal with that. There's a question of whether we want Julius out. No, I don't think we want Julius out. We want to help him. Julius Malema is a good leader, but this is not assisted. He surrounded himself with wrong people. He listened to only those. We have said we are here to save the soul of the EFF. We are not saying we are here to get rid of leadership of the EFF. Even the court cases that we are now supporting are about correcting EFF, making sure that Julius is a good leader that we want, the revolutionary leader that we want. But right now, he is not being allowed to be that leader. He is becoming a little bit like Jonas Savimbi. We can't accept that. So this is the stance that we take. No, Julius must be rescued from the path that he's taking himself and the nation. No, the challenge, the rally Saturday, is it about that will deal with it? And then the question was for you. Yeah.
Can I go first? I think I'll answer only those questions that pertain to me. Also, those others that you have been told repeatedly will be dealt with by Ramakatsa or Twala, they shall deal with them. I think the first one for me is, if you were elected, would you be saying what you are saying? I was amazed actually at how the media was selective in reporting about our refusal or against our nominations, Andile. Because I didn't just cry out, I made a whole statement. And I was waiting for investigative journalism to analyze that statement, and I'll requote it. I said when I declined, and I was in Malima's slate for additional member to the CCT, I said it is my conclusion that it is both safe and progressive for me to decline this nomination. And I turned around and I said to the people who nominated me, allow me to be a follower in the EFF for the next 5 years. Believe me, it is safer that way. Because I had already seen through the conference the culture of hiring people, the culture of exclusion, the culture of money exchanging hands. I wasn't going to be party to that. I use the word progressive because of exactly what we are coming out today to say. When you look at what's happening in the EFF today, it is very reminiscent of how power was shared or taken during the NPA. Let's look at the Kokoro incident. You have problems with Kokoro as an organization. I accept. Why do you jump the fence? That's private property. Why do you jump and climb the wall of a person's house and go in to attack them? 1. 2, when you don't find them at home, why do you manhandle the mother, an African mother, by African young people? That's a very scary scenario, and I'm going to paint it to you very quickly now. After you have manhandled her, you go further and take pictures of her, post them on social media and compare her to a monkey. That's very, very worrying. Can I tell you, in all African conflicts, rebel movements which masquerade as revolutionary movements follow exactly those 3 steps. They have a leader who has blind followers, paid or not paid sometimes, who are prepared to go and commit act of violence on behalf of that leader. His hands remain clean. But you see, with the Kokoro issue, what worries me is that that was ordered in a provincial, in a PCT meeting of Gauteng by the SG himself. Oh yeah? Gigi, Godrich Gadi. Jokingly, he said, you all know how the CIC knocks his enemies around. You will take Kokoro out, it doesn't matter how. We saw it play itself out. He wasn't there, he ran for his life. But what they did to the mother is what concerns me. Yesterday was a very dark day for me, those who talked to me. I was in tears almost the whole day. I spoke to Vanessa, I think he's at ETV, if he's here, if she is here. A very, very sad day. Because I've lived in Africa. But I also teach post-colonial politics to African young people. In Africa, it is always the age group 10 to 35 that is employed against the population. Is the EFF degenerating to that? If Kokoro is not there, why take pictures of his mom? Why compare her to a monkey? Because in all these rebel movements, you first cascade people to a level lower than human beings. You label them. You know, the Hutu called the Tutsi cockroaches, tall trees. When you come from killing 10 Tutsi people, you just report casually, I just squashed 10 cockroaches. That's very easy. And we've seen that labeling continue even with us, lizards, whatever. Call people names that are not human, so that when you deal with them or you send your followers to deal with them, they are not dealing with human beings. I like the name of the operation that ultimately was supposed to crush Kokoro. Operation Flush the Rats Out. Wow, that's interesting. Now, whether I was elected or not elected, for me, it's not the issue. The issue is I opted not to be elected because I was already seeing all of these things play themselves out in the EFF. I particularly have not been synonymous with ANC politics for the last 20 years, by the way, ex-MK as I am. Because I was not particularly chuffed with what I was seeing play itself out as politics in the ANC in the last 20 years. Now I joined the EFF because I thought this is a new opportunity, this is a clean slate, start anew. There's a very catchphrase in our manifesto that says restore the dignity of African people. me and I know a lot of other people, that's what drew us in. Because we have not succeeded to do that in the last 20 years. Now what I'm seeing in the EFF and what I saw in the conference is not restoration of the dignity of our people. It's using their poverty against them. Pay people 300 rands there, 2,000 rands there to go and do your dirty job, including manhandling people and doing whatever. That's not restoration of the dignity of anybody. It's actually is entrenching their poverty and using it against them. So for me, I get involved with my commissars here because I am fighting for the restoration of the dignity of our people. And that's what the EFF promised, and we are not doing it at the moment. Like all multinational corporations, we are misusing their poverty against them, but I think we are doing worse because we are black and we are using our own people against other people. In terms of the roots of this, Andile shared his thoughts. I think, honestly, my thoughts are going to be very simple. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's one. Two, you see, if you have an organization where politics are not taught as a fundamental rule, as what we have seen, it's a problem. Because it means you are now breeding a culture of what is called blind followers. People will stand by you no matter what. If you teach people politics and empower them, they are able to see this is a cult leader, this is a rebel leader, this is a revolutionary leader. But if people do not know, those lines are blurred. And that's the problem we are dealing with. But for me, it's also endemic of South African society in general. This is not an EFF-related matter. It is a South African society matter, where we are a youthful country, and a lot of young people do not really take interest into politics. So they are willing to follow, and in their following, there's blind following. Because in most of our conferences, whether from RPA level to PPA level to NPA level, where the documents discussed and sift out. So those are the problems that we are dealing with, which is why we are saying save the soul. Teach people and let them from an informed decision then make choices. But don't use their ignorance against them. But again, I said it's a South African problem. I think it's an African problem. For me, the number one killing disease in Africa is not malaria or HIV, it's ignorance.
Yeah, I will respond to two questions. The man carrying a gun was me.
Sorry?
I will respond to
someone
two questions.
I'm
someone with part of flu, so you bear with me. The man carrying a gun was me. Like it was. Yeah, we as you know, we had an experience in Cape Town. Coming here, we almost had similar sins. And naturally, we did not want to have a repeat of Cape Town. So we kind of felt that we needed to protect ourselves. Last time, we could not distinguish a journalist from a potential troublemaker. So against that backdrop, I think you will kind of understand. The issue around Andile Mngxitama's attack in the Western Cape last week was basically a conceived, it was a pre-planned thing. You know, what makes it even more painful is that a colleague of ours, someone with whom we shared pain, you know, glory, laughter, and all else, took it upon himself to go and find somebody who's then going to step Andile Mngxitama. This is extremely difficult for us to kind of comprehend as to why would one degenerate to that level when matters are primarily political. And if we disagree politically, why don't we engage? We can always find each other in politics. And this, I think, begins to reflect a culture that has been alluded to, that is beginning to creep the party, that of violence and intimidation. We know the guy. You should just ask if we're going to have him arrested. That yes, the process is underway. We know who went and got him, under what terms, and who he is. So we've got that the agents of state and everything else. Yes.
Yeah, I think in dealing with some of the questions raised and clarifying certain areas further.
So, just ask if you stop seeing
Fabian.
Yes, close to the mic.
I was just saying in responding to some of the questions and clarifying certain areas further. As I've said earlier on, we are patriotic South Africans. The question of the National Assembly and its outcomes must not be misunderstood. We are members of Parliament. It is not about us. It is about the organization, it's about this country. We would have still kept quiet, walk away silently and stayed in Parliament and get salaries for the next 4 years or so. It is not about that. It is about the poor of the poorest. It's about the national interest. And EFF as an organization does not operate in a vacuum, it operates in this country. And I think one point that will also help to bring into fore is the challenges around our current electoral law of empowering parties and individuals within parties. Not because it's a party-based electoral law. That is why it also contributes in developing dictators in organizations in our own country and elsewhere where a party-based electoral law is practiced. We are saying part of this campaign will also to campaign and then petition, ask for petition for people for the changing of the electoral law. You must not be useless and the party because you are a friend to the leader of a party. Then you'll be made a member of Parliament, you'll be given constituency there, whilst you are not going to serve our people. Our people must decide, elect their own leader. That is why we want a constituency-based electoral law, so that our people must have decisions. Directly we represent them, and if you are not delivering, they should have the right to withdraw you anytime. There is an issue that has been raised from time to time, which I think it is our responsibility also to give some sort of political education. The question of the role that MK has played in ushering democracy and freedom in this country. We had 4 pillars of our struggle. We had mass mobilization, we had underground structures, we had armed struggle, and we had international support. And you must ask yourself, with all those 4 pillars of our struggles, who were in the forefront leading those pillars? MK cadres. MK cadres were in the forefront of leading those pillars. So if you don't understand the 4 pillars that were driving or were the driving force behind our struggle, you then misunderstand how our revolution was driven. And you'll play one pillar over the other. They complemented one another. Now, we are not against individuals here. We are saying there are wrong things that are being done in organization. We are saving the soul of organization. We are not attacking individuals. Otherwise, we'd have, and there's nothing wrong with the EFF. We are saying our people have accepted EFF as the alternative. They've accepted EFF as an organization with correct policies to can change their life by ushering economic freedom in their lifetime. We are saying there's something wrong with the leadership, the captains of the ship. And we would easily walk away and form a political party if we do not have interest, if we do not love this organization, if we do not love this country. But we are saying their suspension has nothing to do with the role that they are playing. I think Julius and Malema must be knowing very well that when they were expelled from the ANC, even prior to that, they went everywhere addressing, trying to get masses on their side, explaining themselves to the people. And some of us, we did not wait for some national conference of the ANC in Mangaung to decide our fate. For the first time when I met with Julius, it was in the Free State, when they were in the road show trying to mobilize people, rally people behind them for their support within the African National Congress. The second time, when I met Julius, it's when we went to his house, the previous house where he was staying, and asked Julius, your history with the ANC and Floyd, can we come and form an alternative? And they said no, they were not ready until such time they were expelled. And some of us were not expelled, were not driven by selfish individual motives or interests to form EFF. We left the ANC as a matter of principle. And the decisions that were taken today, it's a principled decision that we're not going to leave. You know, the problem is when you can leave a cancer when you can, detect it at an early stage, it's easy to cure it, to manage it, or eventually to cure it. The ANC, when all of us had to fight, the cancer was everywhere. The EFF, we have identified the cancer and detected it at an early stage. And we can't let it or leave it to be all over the organization. We are saying it is possible to save the soul of this organization. It is still a new organization. All of us were there. We put our lives on hold to build it. And we can't leave it to become another ANC. Hence, we have taken the decision that we are going to save the soul of the organization from within. Whether they are suspended, suspension does not necessarily mean you are no longer a member or a party to an organization. I think that needs to be understood in that context. And the point that we are making here, we are saying we cannot allow in our statement, our party to be owned by friends. And I must say the friendship of Julius and Floyd is a danger to both of them, it's a danger to the organization, and it's a danger to the country. We have been there, we have seen the West. And we are saying we can't allow, if they are not saved as Commissar Andile is saying, we'll have a West country should they become in power. Should the EFF become in power and one becomes the president and deputy president. We'll have the situation of Zaire, where the president, Mobutu Sese Seko, was richer than the country. The country had to borrow money from the president. And before he became the president, he was poor. Shortly, just a long time ago, we were in the same trenches, all of us with Julius. Would have problems of going all over in terms of building the organization. Suddenly, the organization, after all this income that it receives, the party funding, constituency funding, and money from the IEC, the organization can't pay for its National Assembly. Huh? The organization can't pay for its National Assembly. And somebody who had nothing suddenly owes property, suddenly pays SARS. Suddenly pays SARS debt, suddenly he throw a lavish wedding, and you as journalists, you can't see something wrong there. You come here and ask us, but you want Julius to go. We are not saying Julius must go. We are giving members of the EFF and the nation necessary information that they need to can make their own decisions. I don't know if there's another question.
The cards, the issue of the credit cards.
There was also an issue, the question of Malawi, Maputo. Matole Motshekga and Panyasa Lesufi organized a meeting for both Julius to go and meet with Jacob Zuma in Maputo but Zuma was not taken on board. Zuma snapped them there in Maputo. We know these things. We have been saying, let them continue to deny, but we'll give. Today we are telling you that Matole Motshekga and Panyasa Lesufi were the one that were interacting with them, who organized a meeting for them to meet with Zuma, but Zuma was not earlier taken on board. And he snapped them there when he was asked that no, they thought we were doing the right thing now. Zuma will say, now you have solved my problems. So Zuma said, no, I'm not interested in meeting. He snapped them there in Maputo. And in terms of the evidence that we want, there are cases that we are filing. And the evidence is with the lawyers. because we have said we are supporting some cases. Of course, some of you have also been asking, hey, you said you will seek for a recourse somewhere. The review of the National Assembly application will be filed on Friday in Bloemfontein High Court. Yeah.
There's an issue that was raised relating to the link between the EFF and the ANC. I don't know who raised it, but what we've come to realize is that there's a faction within the ANC that is in cahoots with the EFF to achieve a certain outcome. They've identified certain key individuals within the ANC that must be taken out of the equation, so as to enable those that they want to emerge rise expeditiously, so that the merger at a strategic level can then take place. Julius becomes the deputy president, whoever then emerges to is the president. We know that plan, and it must be spelled out clearly. It's not a pro-Zuma faction, it's an anti-Zuma faction in terms of the ANC. It also has links within the black business elite that fits it and supports it. We know the individuals involved, but look, that's not our topic for today. Thanks.
Let's take another round of questions.
A question was answered, sorry.
Which one?
Which one is the question?
Presumably, a political meeting is not illegal in Maputo.
Yes.
So the content of that evidence can't be as important to not fully disclose to the public as evidence that may relate, say, to a criminal trial, to assassination. So when you say that our political actors were involved in setting up a potential meeting, what is the evidence for that? Because that's a very different claim from a legal claim about criminality.
You know, I think you are missing a point there. The meeting, a political meeting in Maputo, we did not say that meeting there's anything criminal about that. We are saying it was a continuation of meeting, of interaction between them and the ANC, in terms of cutting a deal for them to go back and making EFF their own project to deal with it. Baba, and you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're starting here. No, you, yourself.
We?
Yes, please.
Janice Dalton, thank you. I'm actually repeating two questions, one that have not been answered. Is EFF leading the same way as the Coke did? And obviously looking at split tip.
No.
And then you mentioned you want to remain in the EFF, but you've said some things today that might upset the leaders. Do you think this will help your suspension at this stage? And thirdly, was it Mr. Debora that was outside, and why, if so, why was he not allowed in?
Okay.
Churasism from ENCA. Andy, there are two questions for you. One, you talk about an assassination plot against you, so clearly you're fearing for your life. Are you receiving protection from the State Security Agency, VIP protection, whoever protects prominent South Africans who need protection? Have you requested or has it been offered? And what's your attitude towards that? Now, this gentleman is here around in any way police officers who are associated with the state security apparatus. And then second, the question of I saw a few days ago you talked about a rape charge that you said is being cooked against you. Please tell us details of that, and also does it already link to the conversation you had with Nomboliso Gasa about a week or so ago? And then the last one is for Mr. Twala. Your admission that you were carrying a firearm, I just want clarification. Is it a licensed firearm?
It's licensed.
And what was your intention in waving it, in brandishing it? Because some people would say you're seeking to take the law into your own hands, and police are out there protecting this venue, but you felt you could wave the firearm. That's the third one.
Yeah.
My question is directed to Mr. Twala. Are you, by any ways, not entrenching a culture of violence and political assassination within this country by levering a gun on political matters? Are you not using the same methods you claim those who are coming from the ruling party are using? Aren't you practicing double standards? And second, my question is that some are working with the faction within the ANC, the anti-Zulu. who are they trying to eliminate from rising within the ruling party? And is the deputy president of the ruling party involved within that faction?
Okay. It's you and the last. Yeah, it's you.
My name is Andile from Museum. I'd like to find out how far or to what extent are you willing to go to save the EFF, and what would happen if you get expelled by the EFF?
Okay, yeah, question.
Thank you very much. My name is Lebo Hamsian from Independent Newspapers. Firstly, just a follow-up on a question by my colleague here on Maputo. I know you are saying that you can't disclose any further evidence about that because it's part of the evidence before your lawyers. However, just to say, how do you know about that particular meeting? Is it by email or anything else? And when did that meeting take place? Can you tell us? Right. Second question. You have made quite a number of very interesting questions here while addressing us, which makes one cast doubt about your own political disposition and roles within party politics. Right, firstly, Andy, you said, talking about the problem around the EFF, you said this is not a EFF matter, it's a South African matter. And then because people no, that was Lichfield. Sorry. She said people are willing to follow but blindly. And then Mpo, you say that it's about also changing the electoral law. And then I can also go back to related to one of more or less the same problem. Don't you think maybe that, okay, I just remember, Andile said political leaders can't be trusted. Right. In between the threesome of you, don't you think maybe your roles in society, misplaced to some extent, that maybe simply focusing and concentrating on active civil society movements than party politics? I'm looking at him. He had problems, in the ANC. And then once again, he is today more or less, a similar problem. Are you not misplaced in party politics? I know that politics is the art of the possible, but in party politics in particular, are you not misplaced? Thank you.
That was the last headline. It's wrong to wait people. It is a car before you must start to warm up before it leaves. So I've asked for hands, but let me allow the two hands that I've just seen. It's you and her.
His was us. His was us.
I'll think about that one.
Just a quick point of clarity. Why are you guys having parliament today for one of the most important debates? Are you going to do parliament tomorrow and on Thursday, or are you not going to do parliament anymore?
Next.
My understanding is that in the normal course of things, there would be an audit done of any funds that the EFF has received. Why do you feel that the situation is so urgent that you need to go to court to ask for an independent audit? Why not just wait for the normal audit that would happen at the end of the financial year?
Neria from AMN7. Let's just talk about you saying Julius is not a great leader. He is a great leader, but you are worried about some of his tactics are not revolutionary and everything. Let's start from the beginning. Let's see what he did to the ANC Youth League. There was mismanagement of funds. There were a lot of allegations. But yet you guys stood up and said, we want Julius here. We think we can change him. Why are you surprised now that these things are really happening? Is this really a surprise? And Andile, just with just your history, I know Black consciousness movement, you push that, you have a lot of books, you believe in Black people, and obviously you have the belief of liberating the people. Do you really regret coming to the EFF with what you know now? And didn't you know this was going on? Did you have to wait? When was EFF done? 2012, 2015, you guys have to wait for so long to actually see all of this, it's actually happening? When to the signs, the 2 months, 3 months, I mean, Malima has been very bad for a long time.
Okay. The last then.
All right. Just a simple one from me, calling from ENCA again. Should the EFF and its books be cleared? In other words, should it be found that there has been no mismanagement, financial mismanagement? Will you be willing to take back all of what you've said against EFF? And will it therefore be simply about changing the approach, I guess, that this man might take the party, which is obviously the clear approach to what he does.
Okay, that was the last things. Let us. Well, we are responding to the questions.
Start with like
let's start with.
Yeah, I will start with the questions relating to the firearm and perhaps the encouragement of violence and all else. I think I did give a background as to why we were kind of edgy coming to this press conference. We had an incident in Cape Town, and against that backdrop, we had to kind of prepare ourselves for that kind of eventuality. But first of all, my background, I'm a military man. I'm a soldier. It's in me. I've got the lives of the 4 commissars next to me. And naturally, I ought to act in their interest. And if that is perceived to be irresponsible, brandishing a gun, walking into an environment where you cannot kind of determine who's who, who's friend, who's who. If you're at the gate, you would have seen the scuffle. Okay. Now, that kind of made it difficult for us to determine who was who. Okay. So you don't want to be shot at first, and then you decide, no, I've got a firearm, let me look for it. It's after the event. We take preventative measures. So it was just a countermeasure in case that kind of a threat arose.
Baba, continue.
You see, you speak about us, perhaps that act being portrayed or read as supportive of anything violent. I don't think it would be construed in that context, primarily because of the conditions prevalent. You are a witness yourself, you were there. You may have perhaps lost the opportunity to see what was happening there if you were inside. But those that were outside would kind of attest to the fact that there was some melee. Okay. So it was against that backdrop. Would never do, look, as a military person, I don't carry my firearm. I don't take it with. I think the last time I carried a firearm was what? 12 years ago. You know, until the incidents of last week. And I said to myself this morning when I left home, look, we're dealing with an abnormal situation here, so we need to take measures of sorts. So that's the background primarily. What was the... Did I leave out anything?
No,
that's fine. Can I just ask, respond, I think, to the gentleman this side? He asked if are we not misplaced? Shouldn't we be in civic societies? I don't know, maybe I should ask you back. What is your definition of politics? What do you define politics as? Because for me, politics is defined as everyday life. Religion, economics, whatever facet of life you can think of. they are all centered around politics.
I was
And
talking about party politics.
yeah, party politics, yeah. And maybe isn't it high time, maybe I should ask you back the question, isn't it high time for people who are trained as political scientists to own up and clean up that profession? You know the slogan that politics are dirty, it sits not right with people who have studied politics. So if you know that we are not into the culture of bling, and if you know without a shadow of doubt that you will not degenerate into a cult leader or all those sort of things, isn't it perhaps the onus upon you to be involved in politics? And we have had successful cases, really. Thomas Sankara is one. We have had a lot of Julius Nyerere. We have had a lot of other politics who have tried to restore the dignity of the profession called politics. Patrice Lumumba, Steve Biko, people who lived ordinary lives. So maybe you would say we are misplaced, but I don't think so. I actually think that politics need more people who come in and understand that it is a profession, and as a profession it has got ethics and morals on which to act. Like a doctor can't pass by a dying person and say, it's my off time, I'm rushing for my beer. The ethics of a doctor, what they sign for, would not agree. So I wouldn't agree with you. I actually think that we are rightly placed. There was also a question, will we take back our words? Should we realize that the EFF books, I think it came from ENCA, that the EFF books are prudent and clean and there is nothing wrong. I think I like the book of Proverbs. It says a wise person changes their mind. Should that happen, we will, but I will assure you from sitting here, it will not happen. There is no way those books are going to be found clean.
Okay, there was a...
Sorry, because there are things that don't add up, you see, mathematically. You don't tell your people to contribute to a national conference and plead that there's no money in the organization. When the city press argues that you got 76 million, and we have not argued against them and said, no, we actually got 1 million, you overcounted. There's just no way. But constituency funding, none of you is talking about it. It's a crucial issue. All MPs in South Africa are entitled to constituency funding and office. You are accountable because that's constituency funds and they are ring-fenced. They can only be used for constituency work. That is why the Democratic Alliance, who has been in this for quite some time, have even appointed an external consultant to deal with it. They don't even want to be tainted with that money because it's money that's supposed to be used for the people, for services. It is very criminal to take that money and do something else with it. Now do me a favor. Ask all EFF MPs, including those in the legislatures, and if they tell you anybody has ever told them what is your constituency funding and how has it been used so far, I don't know what they are going to say to you. I'm sitting here as an MP, I've never seen it. I don't know how much it is, I don't know how it is being spent. I mean, I have a suspicion actually sitting here, and please, I'm saying it's a suspicion, and that's why I'm talking about it up front. Because at the end, annually, that must be audited. So what's going to happen? Because only I can say in the Ngangala constituency, my money was used like this. So what's going to happen when that time comes? A standard letter will be written, given to all MPs to sign and so to the fact that the funds were used for the constituency. I thank God I know before, so I shall sign no such letter. So to my friend from ENCA, I don't know, I think it will take Jesus Christ helping those books to really come out clean at the end of the day.
Okay, I'll try to be quick in responding to some of these questions. Are we leading to cope? I think in our statement we're very clear that we are strengthening the party instead of breaking it up. We are very clear, we're not trying to remove leadership. We are just making sure that the culture of the party returns to its foundations. As we say, some of our members, by the way, have come out to tell us that we have made them proud because they are able then to say, on the ground, our party is not like other parties because in our party, some of our leaders and members can and do speak up. We have asked in our statement, where are people like ourselves in the ANC? How come it is complete silence from the higher structures of the ANC around Uganda? It's an obvious thing. It is precisely this idea that party politics is about accepting corruption, because that's your definition of party politics. Accept corruption, follow the leader, wait for your turn when the leader will give you promotion. Now that man says we must accept that as the norm. Let me warn you, my brother. You are talking about the ANC and you're mistaking ANC practices for party politics. See, that is what we just described is bad politics. We are here to change precisely that. Don't tell us that we must be part of some NGO when we're talking about billions of rands that are controlled by politicians. And let me warn you, those of you who say we must leave politics to rogues, to those who can fight and beat each other up, you say we must leave politics to those. One day when we all wake up and we are under a dictatorship, we must not complain. Because we say politics about people who are violent, who intimidate others into submission. That's the only way you can emerge and run politics. You are suggesting, therefore, that politics is about dictatorship and liars. We say, no, it must be different. And that is why we claim to be revolutionaries. That is why we're here to change it. And we know it has happened before. Thomas Sankara in 4 years changed the circumstances of his people. Why? He was doing different politics. We can't allow politicians and business people to steal writing laws. You know, like something that worried me all the time when I'm in parliament. So members of parliament make a law that says we'll pay each other R1 million a year. We sign it, that's how much we get. Farm workers come before us and say we want the minimum wage. We say you'll get 12,000 a year. You'll get less than 2,000 a month. So we have not discussed this, and it's not a matter that exercises our minds. The morality of politics has degenerated to a point where it is just basically a mafia running the state. People in that assembly basically are a mafia because they're making laws that favors them and favors business people, and they hope one day when they leave politics, they will join their friends in business. We are saying there's a fundamental change which is necessary, and that is going to be about changing politics. We are going to change politics, or we are going to go to exile. We must change politics, or we are going to have to run away from this country. When the people in Lavin, when you say in Lavin must take over, it means that we're going to be shamboked in the streets because we dare to question the president. We can't allow that. We must. This is the point of our commitment here. Around the VIP protection, somebody asked that question. Yes,
okay.
No, I must just say I've been approached by intelligence sources of the country, and in fact, what shocked me was that they confirmed information that I've got from another source about my life, about how and they have offered. Must I tell you that I've accepted or not? You want those other guys to come after me?
But there are measures in place.
Yeah, let's put this way, there are measures in place. The issue of the rape charge is also part of the unfortunate. Part of changing the culture is changing the culture of personal attacks. Because we knew that the decision was made that I will not be immediately expelled, but what must happen is to attack my integrity, my person. And part of that was to associate myself with Kenny Kunene and Katie. But you all know, Kenny Kunene is not my friend, he's a friend of Julius Malema and Floyd Shivam. Yes. You don't know this? You have a short memory. Last October, Floyd Shivambu was eating sushi with Kenny. Very publicly. Now, these guys are throwing sushi at me.
He actually missed parliament to go to.
In fact, I'm informed that he missed parliament to go eat sushi. You see, but that is part of when people lie with a straight face and there is something I think we need to look at psychologically, the psychology of a nascent dictator, where he looks at the truth and he says, I can change this truth. I can make it something else. And that's why today I'm the one who's being accused. No one asked the question, Julius, wait. Isn't the problem Papiki here? Isn't the problem that you are paying and have pledged to pay for a convicted murderer, and Mngxitama has come up and stood up and said this is wrong? Is this not the problem? No, we're not dealing with that. Mngxitama is involved with these people there. Their own friends. Why are they now downloading their friends to me? Right? I mean, even the vulgarity of, I don't go to Louis Vuitton. It is the things I do with Kenny Gunen and them. And for Louis Vuitton, from my point of view, is very ugly, actually. You know? So, it is their culture, their things they do together. They must not bring it to me, man. Everybody knows they live together in Sante, those people. So, I'll leave it at that and say that it's, but then the rape charge is part of that, to say, we'll have to destroy this man, and we must go around looking for, I was told even they went abroad, to countries I've been, to try to find a woman that can say, this man had raped me. They're still looking. We must all wait until the one day they find somebody. Maybe I'll leave it that there was, let me just deal with this issue. I want to confirm that should the finances of the party come out clean, we will apologize. And that is one thing that we must do in this country. Politicians are afraid to say they are wrong. If we're wrong, we'll say, no, we're wrong, we're misinformed, sorry. But we were right to raise the issue at the time because of the information we had. If we were silent at the time, we would have been complicit in the corruption that goes ahead. We will apologize, and we must not take our people as people who are irrational. I believe members of the party will understand, in the same way that the members of the party must understand, that you're asking for evidence on the city golf. Do you need evidence on that thing? Is anybody in this house who needs evidence, who's not sure that the car was bought, the car was registered in a company owned by a proxy who's related to Julius? The address, you can go to Force-Pro, you can most go Force-Pro. You go to company search Force-Pro. It comes up. What is the address? It's Julius Malema's address. You can call the Force-Pro people. Why do you have GTI of the EFF in your company? Why are you paying Julius Malema money? I mean, these things are very all out there and in the open, and these are the things that they. But if we're wrong, and the audience come and say EFF is not abused these monies, we'll be happy. In the same way, we're taking this matter of financial audits as an urgent matter because of the evidence in our hands. In fact, we're trying to put in an urgent application for this external audit because we don't think we should wait that long. We should not wait for more money to disappear and our party to be in trouble. We need to save that situation now.
There is just something quickly that was raised. Why did we wait for so long? And the lady raised it so passionately. Did we not see through Julius? I think my immediate response would be, we are a society that is highly judgmental, and that everybody, no matter who they are, deserves a second chance in life. The language of the EFF at its formation and its behavior, including its founding documents, which are still relevant, gave the picture of Malema as a person that has turned a new leaf. If you take a dip and you suffer in life, it's supposed to change your heart and teach you the hard lessons of life. And if you turn around and you say, I am forming this because that was his message, because I have seen how corrupt the ANC is, it's very unfair of you to say, but you were corrupt with them. How come are you changing? So what are you saying? People have no right to change. He had a right to change. That he did not change and misuse that trust is not an indictment on us. Why are you blaming us for giving a person a second chance? We shouldn't be blamed. We should be asking him. Very few people in life get a second chance. You should be asking him, why have you gotten a second chance so gallantly and misused it? That's what you should ask him, not us. There was a question also asked, why is Gogoro waiting outside? When you finish here, please ask him. Because there's more other people out there who I do not know how they came. Please ask him why he's waiting outside. You can't ask us.
This press conference, I've said earlier on, it was our press conference with the media. So don't ask us about anybody else that we do not invite here. We invited the media to come here. And we'll never be cooked as EFF. And I think South Africans and members of the EFF and South Africans should be, they should be proud that there are people who can still, raise issues, irrespective of where they are when things are not right. the question of EFF funds, we are raising it because of what we know. If you're a member if you're a shareholder in a company, or you're a member of a party, it's a requirement that at a particular point at the shareholders meeting or the conference or the assembly of organization, financial report must be presented. Now I don't understand how we think as South African journalists. There's what you call, I hear that there's investigative journalism and so forth. And other things are out there. You come and ask us why the financial report was not presented. Which shareholders meeting ever said, which conference has ever said anywhere, an organization and a financial report not presented there. So we're raising this on the basis of that and including evidence that you are having, and we are saying, let's subject this thing to a process. Whether they are proven right or wrong, it doesn't matter. And one other point that I think I need to clarify here. I was a signatory, well, you also raised it yesterday. I was a signatory to some of EFF accounts, not all of them. And even those that I was supposed to be a signatory to them, Julius and Floyd take conscious decision to take me out of those. I don't know, for the best reasons that are known by them. You must know, and you must go and ask them why. You know? And we must not bring all these issues to only one event. You know, a conference of people's assembly is an event in an organization. It comes and passes. And when we went to that assembly, we had a plan of trying to save also the save of this organization then. It is not that we only woke up today and felt that no, we must save the soul of this organization. We are aware. That is why we went out of our way and put measures in place to influence that assembly, that a particular outcome comes out of it. Julius seen it with Floyd that hey, if there's changes here, we lose control. You know, other many things are going to come out. They did everything. That's why they went to an extent of buying people. That's where they even went to an extent of taking some of the critical functions of my office away from me, so that they influence process in a particular way, so that the outcome that they want out of that assembly emerges and they remain in charge. And with those words, I think we thank you for your time.
There's a question there's one question.
There's a question that wasn't answered. I've just asked him to respond.
The one about us not being in Parliament. Now you understand that Parliament allows us to do constituency work. We will take it as one of those responsibilities today. We will put it under that program of constituency work, because you are members of society. We need to interface with you from time to time.
Before they kill us. You have a question that you want to raise?
No, my colleague asked the question.
Which one?
You mentioned the names of Andile Mngxitama and Vanessa Lishuti, but you never explained to us how you know.
No.
You know, let me quickly say.
Email correspondence, did you talk to the person?
Let me quickly
How
say.
do you know?
Panyasa and many other people has been facilitating meetings between the ANC and so forth. I've said, you are saying you're having investigative journalism. You must go, we've given names of people. You must go and ask them. We are not journalists, we are not investigators to go and get every information. We are not evidence. We are giving you names of people and saying there are many other people in the ANC who organize those meetings. It's a fact. We are not Samsaki. So you must also do a bit to get more and interesting news and news to inform our people.
And then maybe as a comment.
And I need to say,
disappointing that you're making allegations, mentioning people's names, but you're very thin on evidence. I cannot be calling Vanessa Lishuti and saying, Ramakatsa says you organize a meeting. He'll ask me, did you ask him, how does he know? That's the end of the conversation.
The meeting, there has been meetings organized.
Where?
At the right time. We are saying, go and ask them.
Relax.
And with time you'll get evidence when we have to give it to you. If you can't find it anywhere, at an appropriate time we'll give it to you. And I'm saying, we thank you for your time, for being patient with us, and being part of this press conference. We thank you.
Are we not going to wait? Are we going on this way?
Where's
my bag?
Thank you.